Welcome back, everyone, to the Successful Academy podcast. I am your host and founder, Ambrosia Carey, and today we are actually going to be talking to the other side of our industry, which is going to be very relevant. I will tell you guys right now, one of the biggest things I've talked to with hairstylists and salon owners alike is how to diversify that portfolio. So before we get started, I want to thank all you guys for these amazing reviews, and I want to give a shout out to all of you guys who have been doing these reviews. It means so much to us to get this feedback, and for the weeks to come, we want to invite you guys to continue to give us the reviews. It helps the right people find our podcast. Today, we're going to be hanging out with Lucas Pontes, who is the International Sales Development Director, Truss Professional. And Lucas has a lot of knowledge to bring your way, but he also has some tips on how you guys can get started as either an educator or a brand specialist. So I want to welcome Lucas. Hi, how's it going?
Hello, everyone. This is Lucas, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Ambrosia, for the invite. And I'm excited to spending, the next hour with you, talking a little bit about Truss Professional and about my experience, for the last 15 years doing sales, marketing, and education for the professional hair care industry.
Well, this is wonderful because I've gotten to know Truss throughout the past few years, and this is kind of cool because I get to pick your brain. So I get to learn from you, and then I get to also pass this knowledge to all of our listeners. Tell us a little bit about your background and your role with Truss Professional.
Well, I started my career 15 years ago as a sales representative in Brazil for American Crew. And things started to grow. We won several awards as the best distributor international. Then we incorporated other brands. We had Sexy Hair, we had Keratin Complex, we had Living Proof, and then Dermalogica at the end. So it was very nice. And now 6 years ago, I took the challenge of accepting an offer to work with Truss Professional, doing the other way around, because I was taking all these American brands to Brazil. And now I am in the United States working with a Brazilian brand, starting something from scratch. And it's been one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had in my career.
I love hearing this side of it because you're almost doing, you were injecting in Brazil and now you're doing the opposite, which is amazing. And you were sharing something with me before we actually started recording. And I actually didn't realize this, just how much you have diversified, because you started, how many years ago did Truss Professional branch out to the US?
Well, we first came in 6 years ago. However, we spent 1 year doing a market research, understanding what do we need to do as a brand to be successful here. How can we compete against our competitors? How can we speak a language that our hairstylists will understand? How can we touch their hearts? What kind of events can we do? So we literally spent 1 month trying to get into the American brain and trying to come up with something way beyond of what they would expect.
I feel like you speak our language well, because we are all the ultimate consumers. I'll speak for myself and everyone else, I feel. And you guys have done such an amazing job of being so inclusive, little things like when you're celebrating a holiday or you're saying happy birthday, and with the brand specialist, I feel like you guys have done a really great job of reaching out and making us feel like we're part of something, especially being on the other side of the country and based out of another country itself. So, and you've also really grown within that time frame too, not just in the US, but you were just sharing with me, how many countries will you guys be projected to be in by the end of 2022?
Yeah, exactly. It means a lot to us when you say that, because we understand that sometimes it's the little things that matters. And we have one corporate guideline, which is to treat everyone that is part of the team as the most valuable asset that we have. Every educator, every brand specialist, every ambassador, they're the most important asset that we have. They're more valuable than the Truss name itself. So we know that sometimes, like you said, a birthday note coming from a corporation could mean a lot, could make you feel special. Or when you receive a gift when you're opening a new salon, or when you get an invite to be part of a show, those things can show that we care for you. Just as much as you care for us. And it has to be a win-win situation. And to answer your second question, 5 years ago, the only country that we were present was Brazil. Truss is a brand that has been in Brazil for 20 years already. And 6 years ago, we came to the United States and we spent the full 1 year doing market research, just to understand what was needed in this market. How could we be different? How could we innovate? How could we speak to people's heart? And by coincidence, internationally, we started to grow. And right now we have 14 distributors in the United States, which in terms of population means over 70% of the US population covered with distribution. But in 4 years, we've been able to expand our brand to 28 countries. And the plan is to close 2022 with 50 countries.
Woo, woo, that is something to celebrate right there.
It
Congratulations.
is.
It's so cool to be a part of that, guys. I will say the way that you are treated by a brand, it can be incredibly inspiring as a business owner, as well as an educator, and even as a salon owner, how to treat the rest of your team, how to pass that on, how to pass the buck. And, you know, being a part of a company that takes good care of you, it does strengthen our community within this industry as well. Because I know that being in this industry, even though we're all kind of going through the grind together, it can feel very much alienating sometimes, like you're doing this all on your own. But being a part of a company that is into growing you as a person and inspiring you to be a part of this growth that's happening, it also encourages you to pass that down to other people too. So in the subject of ongoing education, I want to talk about the importance of that in the industry. And I know it's so important for you guys. I would like to hear, what do you guys look for in an educator, Lucas?
Okay, so that is a very tricky question because there are many different things that we look for in an educator. Sometimes those things are all combined. Sometimes you have to focus on the very best element that that person has, because we're all different. You know, I do a stage myself. When we do shows, I will speak for 2 hours, talking about the brand, talking about the product. But this is something I had to learn and step out of my comfort zone. So as a sales director myself, I could do something that is not expected for my position to do and still do it, you know, and face 400 people and act like it's the most normal thing in my life, but it's not. You know, it's almost like
It's very true. It's very nerve-wracking for a lot of people.
Correct. And the thing is, I'm not a funny guy. You know, usually people think that when you step on stage, you have to be full of personality, you have to make everyone laugh. That's not necessarily true. If you can combine all the different elements, you know, be funny, be smart, know how to talk, know how to engage, know how to look at people in the eyes, give them the chance to ask. And whenever they ask you a question, always make sure you say, great question, regardless of
even if it's not a great question.
Even if it's not a great question,
Yeah.
you know, you have the job to share everything you know when you are an educator. And I would say that the most educators or the best educators that I know are the ones that they share all their tips and secrets. They're not afraid of sharing their mistakes and what did they learn, how to fix them. You know, in obviously your presentation needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can't throw thoughts up in the air and go back and forth with what you're trying to say. You know, when you're doing a balayage, there is the first step, the second, and then it keeps going. So the information that you're sharing needs to make sense for people, you know, and sometimes the challenge is because most of the times we have two educators on stage at the same time, which means we're talking two techniques at the same time. Most people, depending on their level, they'll be able to understand it. But there's also a lot of people that they'll get confused because their brain can only process one thing. And sometimes you might need to go back and hold their hand and help them. And that's that's what education is all about. Education is looking at people in the eyes, making them feel comfortable that they can ask whatever question, and not only share your knowledge, share your heart with them. And that means the world to them. It makes a difference. So when you go to a class, a Truss event, a Truss class, you'll see that we don't really talk much about products. We talk about techniques, and the products, they come with the techniques. And then the educators, they talk about the products, not like, oh, this is this XYZ product and it has this ingredient and this is how you do it. No, they usually say, this is how this product changed my life. That's why I'm here representing this brand today, because I truly believe in this product. And these are, the results that now I'm able to achieve. And then people don't feel that they're being sold on something. They feel that they are being offered a new concept of beauty, because especially with Truss, I think that one of the things that we've been able to implement here in the United States is really the concept that beautiful hair is a healthy hair. And in order for you to have a healthy hair, there needs to be a pre-treatment, the right products used while you're doing your balayage, the post-treatment, and the right home care. And a hairstylist that is just looking for quick rotation is probably not a client for us. Someone that comes in, bleaches the hell out of a client, then next. That's not the concept. That's not who we are. And just a little back to the classes. When we go to a class, a Truss class, you will learn about social media. You will learn about business administration. You will learn about retail. How many stylists, they still have issues selling retail, either because they feel that they can't compete with Amazon, or they don't get enough commission, but that's not true. When you build a trust relationship with your client, and if your client is still going to Amazon because they can find a product $2 or $3 cheaper, than after you spend 30 minutes consulting them on the right product, there's something wrong.
Right.
So those things is what we share when we do a class.
These are all such valid points, especially with the retail side of things. I think a lot of people get in their own heads about it. They feel imposter syndrome, or they don't know how to compete, kind of what you were saying, competing with Amazon. And it's true, that's always going to be there, but that's another opportunity for us to educate people too. We can talk about gray marketed items. We can talk about how if we have the product right then and there, then it's guaranteed because you are the one who's selling that product too. And leading through education is really huge. I love that you were talking. Okay, so we got the beginning, middle, and end, telling a story, eye contact. And eye contact is huge, you guys. You can't see this right now as you're listening to this podcast, but Lucas had eye contact with me the entire time. And it makes me feel like he is not just engaged, but he's really into what he's talking about, right? Like there's nothing more important right now than this podcast. He's fully in it right now. And we've been in situations before where we're talking with somebody and their eyes are all over the place, or they're looking at their phone, and then it sends a message that you're not important to them, that something else is more important than you right now. So eye contact is really big. Of course, the engaging piece and sharing the mistakes, that's, all relatable stuff, I think, from a hairstylist standpoint. But if you were to tell somebody, let's say there's a hairstylist listening right now that just really wants to become an educator and they just don't know how to start. Where do you think that person should go to even start the process of learning the kind of just what they need to do in order to become an educator and to build up their skill set in that?
Well, I would say the first thing you need to do is attend as many classes as you can. But start with the people you admire. Start with the people you love. Understand, why do you love that educator? Focus on that aspect. And then look at yourself and say, what can I do that person is doing, and make it my own way? Don't try to repeat what they're doing. They have a different personality than yours. So you have to funnel, you have to focus on the positive aspect and make it your own. So that is the first thing. And go to another class, find another positive thing on someone else, go to another class. So educate yourself as much as you can. We need to understand that education and stage presence is nothing but repetition. It gets to a point that literally you hit play and you do your class. You understand that it gets to a point where the questions are always going to be the same, which also means the answers are also going to be the same. However, you need to practice. You need to have everything in your brain ready on how to present and how to share. And like I was saying, the questions are going to be the same. You will even notice that most of the times, the jokes that you're going to throw in the middle are going to be the same. So, but the most important thing is learn how to read your audience. And because every location in this country is different, every country is different. It's different. There's places people just show up on stage and you put a nice song and the entire crowd is dancing. There's places that everyone is looking at you and say, okay, what's next? So read your crowd. So after you've been, educated by your favorite educators and you took notes, another thing, people stop recording. I feel that people spend hours holding their phones when they go to a class. And I wonder if they really, watch the entire class. Me, do you know how I learn things? I learn by writing. And then my notes, I record them to myself. And then when I'm driving, I'm listening to them. When I'm in the pool, I'm listening to them. And then usually with educators with Truss, I'm the one who writes, the step by step or the ingredients or how to use the products. I'm not a hairstylist. I've never touched hair in my life. So if I can step on a stage and talk about something that is totally out of my comfort zone and still feel comfortable with it. If you are an educator and you do hair for a living, you should be comfortable with teaching how to do hair in front of 30 people or in front of 400. The second step would be practice. How do you practice? In your own salon. If you have assistants, put them together and do a class for them. Even if it's just one person, put a class together for that one person. Remember that I said it's all by repetition? Keep doing. Go to a cosmetologist. Tell them you would like to share something, you have a new technique, go after it. And everything you're doing, post it. People need to see it. Your clients need to see it. And another thing is your social media. There is a difference between a hairstylist social media and an educator social media. One thing is just before and after. Another thing is people actually having the ability to interact with you, see your transformation, see you endorse a product, why you like that, what you've been able to do. I personally love videos, and I think that from, or tips focused on hairstylists, that helps a lot. Be careful with sharing personal things on your Instagram. Sometimes on stories, it's okay, but there has to be a degree of separation between a professional account and a personal account. If you expect people to come to a class, they don't want to see you at the beach with your boyfriend. They want to see the hair that you do.
Yes.
And, they want to see that you're traveling to educate yourself, that you're attending all the trade shows. And from the moment you become an educator and you have the ability to be on stage, take the best benefit of it. And I can tell you for sure, we have a team of 65 brand specialists today, in which I would say 10 to 15 of them are very active on stage worldwide with us. And I can tell you for sure that at least, all of them have been able to increase their prices of their services at least 30%, because number one, they're not as present at their salon anymore. Number two, from the moment they start posting that they're everywhere in the world, clients feel like, oh my gosh, my hairstylist is famous. And now, her prices are higher, but I don't care paying more because,
Heard me, I'm gonna.
yeah, so one thing leads to the other, that leads to the other, and leads to the other. And then my question to you who wants to be an educator is, do you know who you are and do you know who you want to be? You cannot be a copy of anyone. You have to be the very best version of yourself. And the other recommendation I would give is be a specialist, not a generalist. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to be updos. Don't try to do vivids. Don't try to do balayage. For me personally, be the very best one in one of those categories. Invest everything you can. Do you know why? When you're a specialist, you only have 20% of competition. When you're a generalist and you're trying to do a little bit of everything, you have 80% of competition, and you can't give yourself to 80%, but you can't give yourself to 20%. Invest in what you're really good at. Focus on that. And you will see that with the right dedication, with the right motivation, and the last thing, at least for this question, because I feel I'm talking a lot, put your heart into it. The best educators that I know, they have their heart and soul into sharing, and they'll share everything they know. So that is the combination of a perfect educator.
These are all beautiful, valid points. And this goes across for so many things. Think of your everyday consultation that you do with your client. We eventually kind of create a script, so to speak. Like, we have certain questions we ask, we have things that we're looking for, and we want to pass down knowledge to them with the retail and just coming up with a way to have a blueprint for each service that we're seeing our clients. So if you were to create a script and have that become part of the way that you educate, and you expand upon that, record yourself through repetition. And I love a good stat too, Lucas. Stats are like my love language. So I love that you were saying that if you're a specialist, you only have 20%. If you're a generalist, you have 80%. And just even the stat that you gave us here, that most stylists that are teaching on a platform level, they were able to increase their prices by 30% because the demand went up. Like, how cool is that you get to grow your own personal business and expand yourself outside of the business as well. So these are all really great reasons to become an educator, but the biggest piece of all is being able to speak from your heart. And I think sometimes people can overthink how, they get those perfectionist qualities, and they overthink how they're doing it. And I remember at the very beginning, Lucas, when you were talking about how I'm not a funny guy, but I know how to connect with people, and I know how to engage with them. And so finding what it is that you do really well and expanding upon that piece, and not trying to be the funny guy up on stage, not trying to be somebody who you aren't, that doesn't feel, like you connect with. I think that's a really big piece to pass on. So I just have to echo those pieces. When it comes to technical application or PK, product knowledge, what do you feel is best being an educator? Like, is there something that's more important than the other, or do they both work off of one another? I want to hear your answer on that.
I will speak by personal experience when it comes, for example, to me being on stage. In order for me to feel more comfortable with being on stage, I had to surround myself with people who are very good on stage. And like I said, I have my own way of doing things. And usually, I will, my voice is a little like, I can speak loud. I will connect with people. I walk from side to side on stage. I always let them ask questions. I try to be very straight to the point, but I will give you an example. I was at a show in Las Vegas 3-4 weeks ago, and I didn't know I was going to be on stage, but the models were not ready. And they needed me to kill 1 hour on the stage for the models to be ready.
Oh, wow.
And this was 6 p.m. And people were at the class since 9 a.m. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to come to stage at 6 p.m. when everyone is tired? and talk about product knowledge, which is nice, but it's not the nicest subject that people came to hear. And I just put some nice loud song. I made everyone stand up and dance with me. I'm a horrible dancer. But I felt I needed to start my presentation by doing that. Otherwise it wasn't going to work. And guess what? The 150 people who were there, they all stood up, they all danced with me for 30 seconds. And just by doing that, it broke the ice. But this is something that it took years for me to be comfortable with getting to that point. But again, it's all about reading your audience, connecting with them, learning to speak their language, being straight to the point. I think that there's many educators that, because they don't have a script ready on their mind, they keep going all over the place, and that's not nice. So that's why you should practice in your own salon with your assistants. When we do a class, we do a debriefing meeting with the two educators who are going on stage, and we do a step by step from the very first, from the entrance, from the music that we're going to play, the videos that are going to be on the background, their entrance, greeting the audience and dancing with the audience, and them introducing themselves and bringing the models on stage, explaining the technique and why they chose that technique for that model. For this girl, this is her natural tone, this is the color of her skin, the color of her eyes, this is why I chose the technique, and this is how I'll be doing. And then they have to do a back-to-back, because we're talking to educators, right? And then additionally, do they have any PowerPoint? Do they have any theory that they want to share? After the technique's done, maybe we're going to bring a second model for each one of them before lunch break. Then after lunch break is root shadow. One of the biggest challenges that most stylists have, believe it or not, is how to do a beautiful root shadow. So we also spend, quite some time with that. Then it's time to take the models backstage and, wash their hair and start styling. Sometimes we'll bring styling on stage too. Then we will open for question and answers. We will open for salon administration, for social media. I feel that unfortunately there's so many stylists in this industry that still do not know the relevance of social media. For you to bring more people to your chair and for you to bring more people to your classes. Unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately because I feel that there is a lot of good people out there, but because they don't have the enough number of followers, people don't think that they're good enough. So invest in your social media as well, because that's the new way that society looks at you, and they understand the way that people look at you. So focus on that, because that's your magazine. You have a print magazine that everyone can look at any time. So you need to spend some time on that, whether you like it or not. For me personally, I wasn't on Instagram until 6 months ago, because believe it or not, because I felt, what? The brand that I work for, they have 1.9 million followers on Instagram. The brand that I work for, all the 65 brand specialists together, they have 30 million followers on Instagram. I'm just a sales guy. What am I going to do with my social media that is actually going to make a difference? And I was absolutely wrong, because from the moment I started traveling and hosting my show, of our shows, everywhere I was, people started to connect with me. Clients, educators, people that want to be part of the team, distributors, they all get to see how amazing our shows are. Because now, when you go to a Truss professional class, it's not a class, it's a hair show. We have huge stages, huge screens. We were just in Peru last weekend with 12 models on stage, so it's not just a class. It has become a hair show. And now we move to 3 days of education, and sometimes with 4 simultaneous hands-on classes going on at the same time. But that has been 5 years of a lot of work with all these educators, with their support and Truss's investment and a vision of focus into the future. I think that's how we've been able to do it.
So it sounds like there's a lot of teamwork that goes involved in it, with you even talking about doing this debriefing and dissecting the appointment, like breaking it apart, like how people will really do it in the salon, even offering that Q&A so people can actually interact, in real time, and then broadening that and offering social media help and relating to the social media as more of like a portfolio so that people can really share what they do and who they associate with. I know for me personally, if somebody reaches out if they just send me a DM and I don't really personally know them, if I see that we have mutual friends, that automatically puts them in a different wheelhouse. Like I'm like, okay, this person is established in the industry and they know these people. So that automatically makes me have a different association with them. Sadly, that person could be the most amazing educator, the best speaker in the planet. They could be the most talented artist, hairstylist. But if they don't have that social media following and I don't know who they are, then it's hard to know where the credibility stands. So that's such a valid point that you just made, Lucas. I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. And I just have like one more question. I want to wrap all this up in a pretty little bow with, Lucas. As far as where the interest is out there, I'm sure our listeners who are hearing this are feeling inspired. I know I am by listening to you, especially with you just making the association with how you started actually engaging on social media even just 6 months ago, because you realized, no, there's relationships that I need to foster and continue to keep. What can people today who are listening, is there an application process involved for these listeners to be able to get started with the process if they're interested in getting involved with Truss, or if they want to try the products out, or if they want to become an educator? Where would you direct everyone to go?
Absolutely. So I personally believe that everyone needs to start from the beginning. Nobody comes to a brand and becomes an ambassador unless you are really experienced and famous already. Okay. Other than that, there is a level 1, a level 2, a level 3 that you got to prove yourself that you deserve a space. Because right now, especially here in the US, there are 65 people, 65 hairstylists that are part of a team, and they're fighting for a spot with the brand too. I think that everyone, especially if you are an experienced educator, you need to get a little bit of field work. You need to be able to visit a distributor, do trainings for sales reps, sometimes visit salons with them, understand the challenges, because they knock at your door several times a day trying to sell a product. But now, if you're on stage, your job is to make their life easier when they go knock at a hairstylist store to try to sell a product. So how are you going to do it if you don't know the reverse side of the industry? So that little bit of field work, you don't have to do that forever, is something that it's going to give you a different dimension and a different vision of how to present, how to think. You will understand that hairstylists, they think one way, salon owners, they think another way, sales representatives think one way, distributors think another way. So you need to learn how to be able to speak a language that is universal for all these people that are all part of our industry. After that, you will start doing smaller, technique balayage classes until you become comfortable. And then when you become comfortable and people are saying, hey, I want to go to another class with her because she's really good. I love the way that she presented her class. I love the technique, the beautiful result that she delivered. I was impressed. When you start getting all these positive feedbacks and people start requesting for you, it probably means it's time for you to start hitting larger stages. and then you start going to the 200 people show, the 400 people show, or to IBS New York, to ISSC California, all these great shows that we have across the country. And then there's international, for people that always dream about sharing their passion, whatever language other people overseas speak, we have 50 countries right there for you. So there is a step for everything. And the most important thing is, as a brand, we want to give everyone an opportunity, but we also want to make sure that everyone who wants to apply for this opportunity understands that there is a step after step that needs to be done until you can reach to the top. And the top, it's all about you. It's not about us.
This is such a wonderful thing for you guys to think about, because really you've already heard where the investment comes from on Truss Professionals' end. You have heard what they've done over the last 5 years and what they're projected to do in the future. So you know what they're bringing to the table. Now it comes down to you deciding what you would like to bring to the table, and the sky's the limit. So I want to close off with just thanking you so much, Lucas, for being a part of today and sharing all of your knowledge. I think you shared more than I even expected you to share, which was wonderful. I feel like this is something that's going to resonate with most of our listeners. And guys, just don't forget, we are here for you each step of the way. Find more about our courses, coaching, and community linked in the show notes below. We look forward to catching you guys next week. And until then, dream big, set goals, and take action. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the invite. Ambrosia, please continue to make the difference in this industry. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being part of the Truss Professional team. And for everyone listening, feel free to reach out to Truss Professional, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.